Today, General Motors joined Ford and Toyota in suspending or reducing production because assembly lines simply don't have enough auto parts. A wrench thrown into the supply chain this week by protesting truckers. Almost 2 weeks ago, convoys of Canadian truckers began arriving in the capital, Ottawa, to protest the country's pandemic policies, including a vaccination mandate for truckers who cross from the U.S. into Canada. Some pandemic mandates, we have to say, are already being lifted in Canada, but the truckers, they are not leaving. This week's protesters, they began blocking key border crossings between Canada and the U.S., including the economically important Ambassador Bridge, which connects Detroit in the U.S. with Windsor in Canada. A quarter of all trade between the two countries crosses this bridge. $300 million every day, $100 million just for the auto industry.
Day 14 of a protest that has caught the world's attention. Canadian truckers have parked their vehicles in front of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office, bringing much of the capital, Ottawa, to a standstill. Originally, this was a protest against a vaccine mandate for truckers who cross into the US. It has since broadened out to the fringes and is supported by far-right extremists and conspiracy theorists.
Well, quite honestly, I have accepted the fact that we are the fringe minority, but I'm quite proud to be the fringe minority of hundreds of thousands of trucks and millions of spectators.
Yeah. And do you see yourself on the political spectrum as being the far right?
Yes.
The protests are spreading. Overnight, demonstrators blocked a bridge connecting Canada to the US, shutting down a quarter of cross-border traffic. More than two-thirds of Canadians disapprove of the protests, and frustrated locals have been making their opinions clear too.
Well, the one about the dogs was pointing out some of the stupidity of the protesters. A lot of them brought their dogs with them to the protest, and the honking is incredibly dangerous for dogs.
It bothers me. I think it strikes at what a lot of people feel about what they feel Canadian values are, and we cherish freedom, and this is not about freedom.
But with the truckers prepared for the long haul, it might be some time until Ottawa residents get their city back.
Well, my first guest tonight is Maxime Bernier. He's the leader of the People's Party of Canada. He joins me tonight from Montreal. Mr. Bernier, it's good to have you with us. I got some statistics yesterday. About 90% of Canadian truckers are fully vaccinated against the coronavirus. So explain to us then, what is this protest about?
It's about ending all the mandates that we still have in Canada. You're right, vaccinated truckers or unvaccinated truckers, it's not about that anymore. I cannot, as an unvaccinated Canadian, travel across this country by plane. I cannot go to a restaurant, and, people are losing their jobs because they decided not to take the two shots. So people are fed up with that. We are looking at other countries in Europe and other states in the US. There's no mandates anymore. The economy is open. I understand that it can be, it can hurt the economy in Canada. But, the last 2 years, we shut down the economy, and the Trudeau government spent a lot of money that we don't have, a big deficit of $500 billion, and we are paying for that right now with inflation in Canada. So these truckers right now represent 30% of the population that are saying enough is enough, and they want to regain their freedoms.
Well, Mr. Bernier, I think we can all relate to the pandemic fatigue that the truckers are experiencing. I experience it. I'm sure you do as well. But we can't change the reality that the pandemic is not over yet. I mean, do you think it's right for truckers or for anybody to try to use a protest to end or to declare a pandemic over when it's not really over?
Yeah, but it's not really over. But we know that in Canada, the last variant, Omicron, it's like a big cold, and everybody are saying that right now. So COVID is not that dangerous that it was in the beginning of that pandemic. And people understand that. That's
Mr.
why,
Bernier.
Canadians, yeah.
Mr. Bernier, I mean, I can't let you say that. It's not just like a cold. Now, just south of the border in the United States, you have 2,700 people dying every day from COVID-19. That's not a cold. And I'm sure the numbers in Canada are similar. How can you say that?
Yeah, in 2015 in Canada, more people died from the cold, from the flu. So, right now, that variant, it's not so dangerous for people that don't have any comorbidities. And that's why these truckers have the support of 30% of the population. So I hope that all that will end. The Trudeau government has the solution. They can just stop all these mandates and everything will be reopened and everybody will be able to go back to their lives. That's what they want.
How can you be so sure of that? Are you a medical doctor?
No, I'm not. And you're not also, but you have right to decide and we have the right to look at the study and that's what we're doing. So,
No, but I'm not telling.
But
no, Mr. Bernier, I'm not telling public health officials or the politicians that they should lift restrictions. I mean, I am not qualified. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. And neither are you.
Yeah, but that's the first time in the history of the world that we shut down the economy and do lockdowns and stay-at-home orders and curfew to fight a virus. That's not working. And we know that. We have 2 years of data right now. So that virus is dangerous and deadly for older people with comorbidities. So let's protect the most vulnerable in our society and reopen the society. That's what we want. Like,
is Canada
other
under a
states in
lockdown?
Florida and other countries in Europe.
Mr. Bernier, is Canada under a lockdown at the moment?
No, we are not, but we were. And now you have discrimination and segregation in our country. You have segregation in our country between vaccinated people and unvaccinated people. We are losing our rights and our freedoms. And people, vaccinated one and unvaccinated one, want that to end. I was in Ottawa last weekend and I spoke with people, and you have vaccinated people over there that are saying enough is enough. We need to respect everybody and the choice of everybody.
Mr. Bernier, yesterday on Twitter, we've got a tweet that you posted. We want to pull that up for our viewers. You tweeted, here's an idea. Fine or jail all public health officials and politicians responsible for destroying our fundamental rights and freedoms over the past 2 years. Now, Mr. Bernier, do you honestly believe that Canadian public health officials, have done anything these last 2 years other than try to save and protect as many lives as possible?
Yeah, so that tweet was a tweet in response to another tweet that a lady said we must find and put in jail all people that decided not to have the vaccine. So when I tweeted about that, I was not serious about that, as you may know. So you are quoting that tweet all out of context, first. Second, yes, they did their best. But when we have the data right now, and we have the data for the last year, we needed to protect the most vulnerable. We didn't do that. 80% of our deaths in Canada are people older than 70 years old, and they were under the responsibility of the federal government because the federal government is responsible of giving. Yes.
Mr. Bernier, I mean, listen, I think all of us will agree that in the last 2 years, we've seen our public health officials, they didn't get it right every time. I mean, this is a new virus. They were learning lots of times while doing. But the motive is what matters here. The motive from our public health officials, be it in Canada, the U.S., or here in Germany, has always been, at least that's the way I see it, is to protect as many lives as possible. What can you have against that?
I have against that we are still under state emergency in some provinces in Canada, and there's no emergency anymore. And these establishment politicians are using the state emergency to impose draconian measures like, a vaccine passport for being able to participate in our society. That's unfair, that's unjust, that's unconstitutional.
Well, you know that some of the restrictions are being lifted across parts of Canada. They have this week, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
What?
Yes, you're absolutely right. In the province of Saskatchewan, they said no more vaccine passport, no more vaccine mandates in Saskatchewan in February. In Alberta, they'll do the same thing. In my own province, in Quebec, the Premier of Quebec said he will keep the vaccine passport. So that's not the same situation in every province. I agree with that.
Mr. Bernier, why not, though, rely on the doctors, the scientists, the public health officials in Canada who are monitoring the numbers, the infection rates? Why not rely on them to give the all clear to lift restrictions, to lift the restrictions when it is safe? What is the problem with that?
Because they told us that the vaccine cannot stop the transmission of the virus. Everybody can catch and spread that virus. So why doing discrimination between vaccinated people and unvaccinated people? That's based on science. We understand that the vaccine is very good to be able to, for older people or young people that want to be safe and being sure that they won't have severe COVID, and I agree with that. So, but everybody must be free to decide, and that's not the case right now. They told us 2 years ago that
the polls show that a majority of Canadians, first of all, Canada has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. A poll shows, the latest poll shows that a majority of Canadians are in favor of penalizing people who break the pandemic restrictions at the moment. You're not speaking for the majority of Canadians. Aren't you just trying to protest your way to break the pandemic rules?
No, and I'm not proud of that. Some Canadians said, that we must put in jail people that decided not to be vaccinated. I'm not proud of that. But, in the beginning of January, only 10% of the population were saying, we approve that, we must end all these mandates. And now that 10% is at 32%. More people are fed up with that, and we must end that. There's no reason to be under an emergency state in Canada anymore.
Well, Maxime Bernier, leader of the People's Party of Canada. Mr. Bernier, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us tonight. We certainly wish all Canadians the very best. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Have a nice day.